The plane crash that killed a rising star in the world of music and film. Reaction today after Aaliyah and 8 others were killed when their plane went down.
And then when she actually saw the plane, she, we had the Blackberries, and she said, "I don't like this plane." And I was like, "Well, don't get on it." And she was like, "Well, I got to because I got work to do."
The new CD, self-titled, and I wanted to self-title this album because I feel that when my fans hear it, they'll get a sense of who I am. Matrix. That's all I can say.
Anyone who loves good music will tell you that Aaliyah changed the sound of R&B music and was one of the most beloved singers of the 1990s. Born Aaliyah Dana Houghton, the mononymous singer began her career at 11 years old when she performed with her aunt Gladys Knight for 5 nights in Las Vegas. Aaliyah was only 14 when she released her first album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, in 1994, which received American Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards, and Soul Train Awards nominations for Best New Artist and skyrocketed her into popularity. The singer's second album, One in a Million, went double platinum after its release in 1996, and her third and final album, Aaliyah, dropped in 2001 and peaked at number 2 on Billboard's Top 10 list. Sadly, 2 months after the debut of her self-titled album, Aaliyah's life was tragically cut short when she died in a plane crash in the Bahamas after filming her music video Rock the Boat on August 25, 2001. Following Aaliyah's death, her musical and personal legacy lived on. She received 3 posthumous Grammy Awards nominations for Aaliyah and earned nods for her acting in the vampire movie Queen of the Damned. In honor of the late singer's birthday in January 2024, a tribute was posted on Instagram to celebrate what would have been her 45th birthday. "You were more than just a daughter, sister, friend, and role model, Aaliyah," it read. "You were a revolution of sound, a beacon of style, and an inspiration to millions. You showed us how to own our power, embrace individuality, and move through the world with fierce grace. We miss you every day, but your light still stays with us." But 23 years since the singer's death, tough questions must be asked. What really happened the day Aaliyah died? As earlier mentioned, the singer died in a plane crash in the Bahamas when a small twin-engine Cessna 402B crashed shortly after takeoff. The chartered plane was carrying Aaliyah and 8 others, including the singer's hairdresser, bodyguard, a record executive, and the plane's pilot, per the New York Times. The outlet reported that the plane's wings shattered on impact and the engine and landing gear were torn off. Aaliyah and 5 of the other passengers died instantly. 3 others died of their injuries the next day. Her official cause of death included severe burns and a blow to the head. The pathologist who performed autopsies on the victims testified in court during a coroner's inquest into the crash in 2003, according to CBS News. The pathologist also testified that an autopsy of the pilot, Luis Antonio Morales, revealed he had cocaine in his urine and traces of alcohol in his stomach. The pilot was also not certified to fly the Cessna 402B and had been hired by the charter company a few days before the crash, per the New York Times. Morales had also been sentenced to probation for cocaine possession 2 weeks prior. In addition, the newspaper reported that the days leading up to the flight were filled with confusion and mistakes, including overweight cargo for Aaliyah's music video being delivered to the wrong Bahamian island, and multiple changes of which charter company would bring Aaliyah and her crew back to the United States. After investigations into the causes of the crash, officials believed that the small twin-engine plane was 700 pounds overloaded when it took off from the airport on the Bahamian island of Abaco. The singer died on Saturday, August 25, 2001, at around 6:45 p.m. After wrapping filming for her Rock the Boat music video in the Bahamas, the singer and her crew plan to return to the U.S. the same day. The New York Times reported that the charter plane company was changed at the last minute, downsizing the aircraft's weight limit. Again, who made this happen? Despite the 10-seat Cessna piloted by Morales arriving nearly 2 hours late, the weight of the passengers and their baggage were checked after boarding, as required by federal regulations, according to the publication. Experts later believed that the weight of passengers and cargo wasn't evenly distributed. During the 2003 coroner's inquest into the causes of the crash, 2 taxi drivers, who dropped Aaliyah and her crew off at the airport, and a customs official testified that they were concerned about the amount of equipment they had with them, per CBS News. When the plane took off around 6:45 p.m., An eyewitness saw the plane bank left and fall to the ground at a frightening speed, he told the New York Times. The crash took less than a minute, he said. After the singer died, her parents, Diane and Michael Houghton, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Instinct Productions, the video production company that created the Rock the Boat music video and coordinated transportation to and from the Bahamas, and other defendants per the New York Times. In the fall of 2003, 2 years after the singer's death, the family reached an undisclosed settlement with the defendants. The Houghton family also reached a settlement with Blackhawk, the company operating the Cessna 402B, and flight broker Atlantic Flight Group for negligence in the crash, Billboard reported in 2003. The families of Eric Foreman and Anthony Dodd, two of Aaliyah's crew who were killed in the crash, also filed wrongful death lawsuits against Instinct, Blackhawk, Virgin Records, and Blackground, according to Billboard. In the days after Aaliyah's death, fans held memorials for the singer across the country, and fellow musicians honored her with heartfelt statements. 2 days after her death on August 27, 2021, hundreds of people gathered near Aaliyah's former high school in Detroit to remember the singer with a candlelight vigil. They admired her work and her position as a role model to young girls, according to Billboard. Rapper DMX, who starred alongside Aaliyah in the movie Romeo Must Die, released a statement after her death. Talented, classy, warm, beautiful, compassionate, and humble best describes my memories of Aaliyah. A down-to-earth sister with enough energy to put anyone on a cloud, it read. Music producer Timbaland, who collaborated with Aaliyah on songs like Are You That Somebody?, spoke about the singer on MTV's Total Request Live. Me and her together had this chemistry. I kinda lost half of my creativity to her, he said. Beyond the music, she was a brilliant person, the most special person I ever met. Her influence went beyond music. A year after Aaliyah's death, basketball star LeBron James revealed that the singer influenced his career. The NBA star James told Sports Illustrated that Aaliyah's unexpected death inspired him to keep playing through a career-threatening injury in college. You're not promised tomorrow, he explained. I had to be out on the field with my team. But over 2 decades later, tons and tons of questions still remain unanswered when it comes to the singer's death. In the years since, there have been few explanations for why the plane was ever allowed off the ground in the first place. Reportedly, arguments had broken out between Aaliyah's entourage and the pilot over the plane being overweight. After the crash, it was quickly confirmed that the small twin-engine plane exceeded its maximum weight limit by several hundred pounds. Plus, the weight was not evenly distributed, which would have made the plane more challenging to control once it got into the air. The last significant update came in 2002 when a toxicology report found that the inexperienced pilot had cocaine and alcohol in his system. It never quite added up to author and acclaimed music journalist Kathy Iandoli. Why would Aaliyah, a known anxious flyer, be so insistent on getting on this tiny plane when it was clearly overloaded with baggage, especially when there was a chartered plane set to pick her up the next day? But Iandoli stumbled across what she believes is the final piece of the puzzle in the process of researching and writing her book, Baby Girl, better known as Aaliyah, which has given her long-needed closure about the singer's death. It came from a man in the Abaco Islands named Kingsley Russell, whose family ran a taxi and hospitality business in the area. Shortly after the death of Kobe Bryant in February 2020, Russell made a since-deleted YouTube video describing how the helicopter crash was triggering because it reminded him of the day he watched Aaliyah being taken on board the fatal flight while she was asleep, knocked out by a pill that a member of her team had given her. Minutes after he saw her entourage carrying a sleeping Aaliyah onto the plane, despite her previous protests about boarding it, Russell said he remembers hearing the unforgettable sound of the aircraft crashing into the ground. Russell's account was a bomb to Iandoli, who for years struggled to accept the fact that Aaliyah willingly risked her safety and her team's just to make it back to Miami that Saturday night. I remember when Aaliyah passed away, I was really upset, Iandoli says. The story kept saying that she was adamant about getting on the plane. I was almost upset with her. Why did you want to get on that plane so badly? I remember wrestling with this, being like, well, she wanted to get back to Damon Dash. She wanted to be with her team, and who wouldn't want their stuff with them? In learning that she did not want to get on the plane, for someone like myself and so many other people, I think that's closure for us, she adds. It's an unfortunate closure, but I needed to hear she didn't want to get on that plane. I needed to know that. The person who I thought had the most common sense in the world had common sense to not get on the plane. The fact that she was so adamant, staying in the cab, refusing, these are things we never knew. Iandoli gives credit for tracking down Russell to Aaliyah's superfans, particularly UK-based Sandy, who runs the popular page Aaliyah Archives. Sandy had stumbled upon Russell's YouTube video and sent it over to Iandoli one night. She's like, "You gotta get at him," Iandoli recalls. "Even if he's lying, fine. Let's find out if he's lying." That was basically what it came down to. Iandoli slid into Russell's YouTube private messages, saying she was working on a book about Aaliyah, and asked if he'd be willing to chat. Russell told Iandoli that he had received a handful of messages, but was only interested in speaking to her because Aaliyah had told him during that final journey to the airport, "If you want to do anything, be an author." Feeling he was destined to talk to Iandoli, Russell began sharing a story that he had long been advised to keep to himself. Russell was 13 in 2001 and wound up being in Aaliyah's orbit by working as her team's baggage carrier, securing the tipped job by his aunt Annie Russell, who was handling the team's transportation and scouting locations for filming. Annie Russell herself gave testimony at the coroner's inquest into Aaliyah's death in 2003, citing concerns about the team having too much video equipment to take on the plane. Kingsley's mother was Aaliyah's driver during her time on the island, which allowed Russell to chat with her on their way to the airport. Already experiencing a 2-hour delay due to the plane's late arrival, Russell claimed that Aaliyah grew even more flustered when she finally saw the small plane and refused to board it. At the same time, the pilot was insisting that the plane would be too heavy with 8 passengers, including Aaliyah's 300-pound bodyguard, and all of their luggage and video equipment. The airport staff and Aaliyah had the common sense that the plane was overweight, Russell is quoted in the book. Pushing back against her team, Aaliyah climbed into the taxi van, complaining of a headache, and said she was going to take a quick nap. Meanwhile, her camp continued to try and convince the pilot to fly them with all their luggage, according to Russell. Eventually, Russell said a member of Aaliyah's team came to check on her, and the singer reiterated that she did not want to get on the tiny plane and that she had a headache. It was then that Russell claimed that the team member produced a pill, which Aaliyah took and fell into a deep sleep, which she remained in when the pilot finally agreed to fly the group back to Florida. "They took her out of the van. She didn't even know she was getting boarded on a plane," Russell said in Baby Girl. "She went on the airplane asleep." When the singer's body was recovered nearly 20 feet away from the wreckage, she was still strapped into her seat, slumped to the left with her 5'7" frame folded over, according to the book. An autopsy report concluded that her survival was unthinkable, citing her extensive burns and major head trauma. For Iandoli, it's a bittersweet revelation that Aaliyah was allegedly knocked out when she was taken on board the plane, admitting she was unsure if she even wanted to include the pill detail in her book. She ultimately decided it fit into this story that I think debunked something that we had been believing for all this time. "The only thing I've taken with me is that after 20 years, I can finally say that Aaliyah didn't want to get on the plane," she says. "That makes me feel a little better, but not much. This didn't have to happen. She should still be here, and I think that's the saddest part about it." She deserved better, Iandoli adds. So, was she drugged intentionally? And if so, on whose orders and why? Such questions still remain unanswered, but soon, very soon, everything will come to light. And that's it from us today until next time. Thank you for watching.